I was never afraid of music theory. I was actually one of those kids that would hear someone talk about some sort of theoretical concept like modes, functional harmony, or symmetrical scales, and would actually be curious to figure out what it is and how to use it, rather than be haunted by the idea of an older musician telling me to play that and me not knowing what it was. In conversations with older musicians, most of them say that the reason that they don't really know music theory is because back in the day there was no internet and easy access to information to actually learn those things. And although I do agree, that's not an argument for right now. But what is an argument is that you shouldn't just learn what that theory means. You should actually try to apply it so that it enters your vocabulary. For instance, when it comes to symmetrical scales, which is a scale that follows a specific pattern, the most known one is probably the whole tone half tone scale, which is an octatonic diminished scale. And at first I thought you would just use it over diminished chords, which is what you do, but there are other uses for it, like playing it over non-diminished chords and spice up your sound a little bit. And as soon as I learned some of those diminished scale shapes, I quickly figured out some links that I thought sounded cool. But then there was the less spoken brother of those symmetrical scales, which is the augmented scale of the whole tone scale, where, as the name implies, you just play whole tone after whole tone. You start in C, you'd have C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, then you come back to a C. It's complicated because we usually count our scales with 7 notes, and then we have a specific name for each note. With symmetrical scales, it's a little bit more complicated. But regardless of that, unlike with the diminished scales, where I quickly figured out some ways to use it, with the whole tone scale, I did figure out, like, okay, I can probably play it over a major chord, like a dominant 7th chord, and it works. It gives you a very outside sound, but it works. But when it came to songwriting, unlike other symmetrical scales, like the diminished scales, I always struggled to figure out a way to apply the scale. Until I was working on my latest release song, A Wizard's Gamble, which, if you haven't, you can and should go check out anywhere you listen to your music at. That song is played in standard tuning, but you take your 6th string and you drop it down to a C note. And even though you don't technically need to, having that low C kind of puts you in the key of C. So I was just playing around with a C chord. And I started looking at it and I was like, okay, I have a C, an E, and a G, right? But if I raise it up to do that like at 9 sort of a thing, I get the beginning of a C major scale, but I also get the beginning of the whole tone scale. And if I keep going another whole tone, I kind of get that Lydian sound, which is a major scale, but with a sharp 4. And the more I thought about it, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I can do like an add 9 chord, then do like a sharp 11 chord. And if I keep going another tone, I'll then actually be playing the whole tone scale. I can just move from like having a major chord with a sharp 11, then something like an augmented-ish chord, or like a major chord with a flat 13. And this might all be like theoretical craziness for you, but in my head it just made sense and it was sounding kind of cool. Well, I know that's debatable and subjective, but to me it sounded cool. And it became a cool climb up to use in the song. Actually, in the context of the song, it sounds like this. Which became even cooler because later on in the song I actually do the same sequence but descending. Which also became a super cool transition between riffs and song sections that also leaves the listener wondering what they just listened to because they were expecting to hear one chord progression and they heard it reversed, which sounds similar and definitely itches that part of your brain wondering like, ooh, a bit unexpected and different but also familiar, which in my opinion also makes you keep one to listening to the song. Have you worked with the whole tone scale very often? Let me know. And while you're at it, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow and stay tuned for more because I'm releasing new songs every week and I'm releasing new videos every day, twice a day about said songs. So if you enjoyed this one, you'll probably enjoy the next ones too. Don't forget to share them with a friend who may also like them. In case it wasn't obvious already, go check out my latest release song, A Wizard's Gamble, anywhere you listen to your music at. And thank you so very much for watching, it really means a lot and I can only hope to see you in another video. But until then, cheers!